It's tea time, it's tea time. It's tea time, it's tea time. Tia Williams.
On the stage. Hey, you guys, it's Wednesday, and you know that Wednesdays equal tea time. If this is your first time tuning into Tea Time with Tia, I am Tia Williams. I created Tea Time with Tia as a platform for me to empower you to be free as I spill my tea. I share my testimonies on how I overcame in life using kingdom principles. What are kingdom principles, you ask? They're simply God's way of doing things. Principles work for anyone, anywhere, anytime, and under any circumstances. Come on, isn't that good news? I think it's excellent news. Well, as you guys can see, I already have the topic on the screen. Today's Tea Time with Tia topic is, do you have a purpose or are you a process? Do you have a purpose or are you a process? And so when I initially received this topic from God, I was confused. I was like, okay, what does that mean? But it is always, exciting for me to be able to dig into God's word and really extract what is it that he's trying to communicate with us in this season. And so I think this topic goes along perfectly with last week's topic. Do you guys remember that topic? It was had something to do with being double-minded. It was the world's way versus the word's way. That was a good teaching. I need to go back and extract some highlights from that teaching because it was really good. And so I pray that you guys will, sit down at the feet of Jesus and hear what thus saith the Lord concerning us in this season. And so, okay, let's get into it. Do you have a purpose or are you a process? And when I initially, read the latter part, or are you a process? I thought about the term that most people will use, and they would say, what would they say? I'm a process, or like a work in progress. I thought of that, but it's a process. As if they're still baking or cooking, or they're still working on themselves, or they haven't reached their final goal or destination. And so when God asks us this question is, do you have a purpose or are you a process? Something, it means something to God, right? And so we know off the cuff, we have a purpose. And within every purpose, we know that there's a process, but we should not get stuck in the process, right? The purpose. Let's go to definition. Let's look up some definitions. I love to look up definitions. Who do we have on? When you watch this video, make sure you look at the replay. Type in replay. Let me see if I wrote the definitions down. Okay, yes. So purpose, the reason for which something is done or created, of for which something exists. Have as one's intention or objective. So when you have a purpose, right? There's a reason for your existence. There's a reason why something has been created, right? There's a end goal. And so I wanted to look up a Bible definition, and it says, while God has a general purpose for all people, the Bible also emphasizes that each individual has a unique calling and purpose. This purpose is often tied to one's gifts, abilities, and the specific circumstances of their life. So come on, say, I have a purpose. Everyone has a purpose. The Bible tells us, Jeremiah 29:11, that God knows the plans he has for us, right? Plans to prosper us. So you have a purpose. And even though there's a process to the purpose, I don't want you guys to get stuck in the process. And I'm telling you, immediately I thought about the children of Israel, that they spent 40 years wandering in the wilderness. And so I want to use that as our text today. I want us to, I really enjoy the Bible because the Bible just shows us human nature, right? I know we think that we're reading about someone else, but we're just reading about what we're capable of. Like, we're all capable of making some of the same decisions or having some of the same shortcomings, as some of the people that we read about in scripture. But it just, for me, I look at it like this is just human nature. This is what we do as humans. Under the right set of situations or circumstances, this could be us. I could be Eve, and it's just marvelous how through one man's disobedience, like one person represents all of us. And then Jesus Christ comes on the scene as one man, and then we all get to benefit from that one man. So I'm saying all that to say is that you don't look at the Bible or read the scriptures, as if you're looking at something from an outside perspective. No, look at it as if this is you, that you could be making this decision. And so I want us to attach the children of Israel, their story of being freed from slavery from the Egyptians, and God having a purpose and a promise to bring them into the promised land, the land of milk and honey. And so, what else do I want to read? So that was purpose. Let's look at what process means. I know I didn't write process down. Process is I thought I did. Okay, it's a series of steps or procedures used to achieve a specific outcome. I wrote it down somewhere. Okay, it's a series of steps or procedures used to achieve a specific outcome, right? So if we want to look at it this way, purpose is why we're doing something, right? You want to be purpose driven. You want to have the end goal in mind. Like, you don't want to get stuck in the process. You want to go through the process to get to the promise, right? So if you understand what your purpose is, if you understand your why, right, then it's easy for you to overcome or endure or be patient, and not quit, right? And then the process is really just the how. The process is just how you're going to get to the end. It's a series of steps or procedures used to achieve a specific outcome. And so purpose comes before process. Come on, because you don't want to take steps that aren't aligned with your purpose. You understand what I'm saying? It's like if your purpose or your promise or the end result is to lose weight, right? You don't want to start taking steps that are counterproductive to your purpose or your promise or your end result. So purpose comes before process, right? And if you notice in the Bible, God always gives a promise, or he always shares the purpose of what you're supposed to do, and then you go through the process. You think about Joseph. Joseph received the dream. Joseph knew that at some point that his family was going to bow down to him. Joseph knew that he was being prepared, right, to be a king. But Joseph had to go through a process that wasn't a straight line to the throne. Joseph had to go through his process looked like this, up and down, like a roller coaster ride. It had twists, turns, bumps, grooves, and it took time. It required some patience, right? But the question that God wants us to ponder or to meditate on or to consider is, do you have a purpose or are you a process? Come on. Do you have a purpose or are you a process? All right, so the phrase "it's a process" acknowledges that achieving something takes time and involves various stages. It implies that patience and persistence are needed and immediate results are not always guaranteed. But you know that sometimes when people say it's a process, they use that as an excuse not to change. And so we don't want to be on that end, right? We want to be the purpose driven and not the process. We don't want to be a people that just stays in a process and next year they saying it's a process and then 10 years later, they're still in their process. It's a process means something takes time, involves stages or steps, and immediate results shouldn't be expected, implying patience and gradual change are necessary. Okay, time and stages. The phrase highlights that achieving a goal or undergoing a change requires time and involves multiple steps or stages rather than being an instantaneous event. It suggests that patience and persistence are necessary and necessary because immediate results are unlikely. The implication is that learning, growth, or change happens gradually, not overnight, right? So we know that with every purpose, there is a process, right? But we don't want to get stuck in the process, okay? And it connects back with last week's lessons of being double-minded. And we're going to see some of these characteristic traits with the children of Israel. How they started off complaining to God about how they were being mistreated by the Egyptians, the harsh conditions. They were asked to do things that were unobtainable. At one point they were asked to, get their own, I want to say, hay, and they still had to continue building in the same time, but they added on an extra element that was very difficult for them to obtain. So let's look at Deuteronomy. I just wanted to put all of that in your ear. That's crazy. I just seen a typo. I'll fix it when I get to it. So I have 2 days to teach on this topic. So I'm going to try to take my time, and make sure that you get everything that God intended for us to get out of this lesson. So let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 2. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 2. I'm trying to see if I need to read chapter 1. Verse 1 first. Okay. Normally, it takes only 11 days to travel from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, going by way of Mount Seir. Verse 3. But 40 days. Did I write that? But 40 years after the Israelites left Egypt, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses addressed the people of Israel, telling them everything. Okay, let me I wanted to stop right there though, telling them everything the Lord had commanded him to say. Right? So let's go back. Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 2. Normally, it takes only 11 days to travel from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, going by way of Mount Seir. But 40 years after the Israelites, come on, say it's a process. It's a process. But 40 years after the Israelites left Egypt, on the first day of the 11th, hold on, I gotta find it. The 11th month, Moses addressed the people of Israel. Now, the Israelites were scheduled to reach the promised land in 11 days. And because of whatever was going on in the process, it took them 40 years. Come on. God is asking us, do you have a purpose or are you a process? Come on. And are you a process doesn't seem like it's positive. It's like, it's almost like, are you a project? Are you something that somebody got to reassemble, build back up, work diligently to get you fixed up and ready for whatever your assignments to do? It's like, no, come on. Do you have a purpose or are you a process? It's like those are two different mindsets. When you know that you have a purpose, you understand everything that comes along with it. You get it. You understand that. So I am a teacher. I know that this is my gift. This is what God has equipped me to do. And I know that as a teacher, I'm going to get some hard-headed students. I am going to get, and he warned me of this. He told me you are going to get the most difficult students. And I'm like, why, Lord? So I don't complain because I know it comes with the territory. It's part of the job hazard, if you will. So I don't get tripped up, about how people get things. I know that it's going to take me to hit them north, south, east, and west before that they may even comprehend what I'm trying to get them to understand or see. I know how to say things in 50 different ways because I understand that they might not get it at this point. I understand that, I may say something and I'm just sowing a seed. And then later on, they're going to come back to me and say, oh, I get it. I didn't understand what you were trying to say to me. I understand all of that. Right? And so, are you a process? We're going to look at the children of Israel and see why an 11-day journey took 40 years. And remember, I told you guys, we are not going to read these stories as if we're judging from the outside. No, we are the children of Israel. In some shape, form, or fashion, they represent us. I told you the Bible to me is just about human nature. This just gives us examples of how we are as humans. Come on. So let's dig into it. Oh, I don't really know how I'm going to bite this elephant, but I'm going to do it one chunk at a time. Okay. So I don't want to go there. Let's go to Exodus chapter 2, verses 24 and 25. Okay. God heard the groanings and he remembered his covenant promise to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He looked down on the people of Israel and knew it was time to act. So here, this is where the children of Israel are complaining about the Egyptians and the harsh treatment that they are receiving from them. So then in Exodus chapter 3 and 7, then the Lord told him, I have certainly seen, he's talking to Moses, the oppression of my people in Egypt. I have heard their cries of distress because of their harsh slave drivers. Yes, I am aware of their suffering, and so I have come down to rescue them from the power of the Egyptians and lead them out of Egypt into their own fertile and spacious land. It is a land flowing with milk and honey. The land where the Canaanites, come on, Hittites, Amorites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites now live. Verse 9, look, the cry of the people of Israel has reached me, and I have seen how harshly the Egyptians abuse them. No, now go, for I am sending you to Pharaoh. You must lead my people Israel out of Egypt. So Moses had a purpose. Moses' purpose was to lead the people, God's people, out of Egypt. Okay. And then we also saw the promise attached to the purpose, right? He promised the land that he promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He promised them the promised land that is filled with milk and honey. But he also told them that, hey, somebody is already on this land, but I'm going to give it to you. Okay. Now, I had to, bring that to your attention so that you can see that the children of Israelites were complaining. They did not like their treatment. They wanted God to save them. Okay. Just remember that they were suffering. Come on. And then he told them, he heard the harsh abuse, treatment that the Egyptians were giving to them. All right, so let's look at Exodus 13. I want to go to Exodus 13. All right, because I want to skip, because if you think about it, I don't know if you read this story, but the Bible starts with Genesis, then Exodus. So you go from Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy to Joshua. You got to read all of these different books to finish the story. That's how extensive this story is. But let's look at 13. Let's look at Exodus 13. I'll start at 1. Oh, you know what? Let's see. Hold on. Okay, Exodus 13. So Moses said to the people, this is a day to remember forever, the day you left Egypt, the place of your slavery. Today the Lord has brought you out by the power of his mighty hand. On this day in early spring, in the month of Abib, you have been set free. Okay? You must celebrate this event in this month each year after the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, Hittites, Amorites, Hivites, and Jebusites. He swore to your ancestors that he would give you this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. I'm trying to skip. And so then he's just telling them how he wants them to remember this day. So make sure that this is something that you celebrate for generations to come. This is what you must do when the Lord fulfills the promise he swore to you and to your ancestors when he gives you the land where the Canaanites now live. And then he's telling them all about, presenting his sons, and what they should do and say in the future, right? So I just wanted to read you about that. So God, after all of these plagues that God had to put on Pharaoh, because he knew that Pharaoh's heart was going to be hardened towards Moses when he sent Moses to ask Pharaoh to let his people go. And even with Moses, right, this whole when God gives you a promise or a purpose, right, if you go back and read this scripture or this a story about Moses. Moses did not feel equipped. Moses was not a good leader. Moses talked about gave God every reason why he couldn't do it. He said that I stutter when I speak. He was like, he didn't have confidence. So just know that when you have a purpose or a promise, you have to go through a process because you need to see what God has already equipped you to do on the inside. And you're looking at things from a skewed perspective, but God knows the plans he has for you. He knows why he created you. So I'm just trying to give you like a cheat code, if you will, that whatever God asks you to do, believe him. Believe it and receive it. Even if you don't think that financially you can do it, even if you don't see how physically you can do it, even if you feel like you don't have the credentials, the world's credentials. I think about when God gave my husband and I a vision to open up a school. We called it Educational Lifestyle Training Academy, ELTA for short. And immediately I'm looking like, I'm not a teacher, because I'm thinking about the world system that you got to go through college and you have to have these credentials. And, both of my husband and I, we both have some college, but we never completed and received degrees. And so you can take what God tells you and you can funnel it through the world's perception or the world's way of doing things, and you can disqualify yourself. And so even reading this story, I'm looking at Moses and how Moses is disqualifying himself because he doesn't see himself like God sees him. And if you think about it, look at the educational system today. It's declining. If you guys know that the world that we once knew it to be is no more. Things are changing right before our eyes. We are bearing witness to a new way of life, to a new way of doing things. And so I just wanted to point that out. Like, again, you got to put yourself in Moses' shoes. You got to put yourself in the children of Israel's shoes, because maybe today you're not, being in the process or taking a long time. But if you look back over your life or you think about some circumstances, that you can really see how things took much longer than what they should have. Come on, think about it. Have there's been something in your life that took much longer than what it should have? Yeah, we look at this as extreme, like, but it's 11 days. It took him 40 years. Okay, well, how old are you? Are you still learning to bridle your tongue? Should that be something that's taking you 50 something years to do? Come on, or is it just a decision? Is bridling your tongue attached to your purpose? And are you wondering why you're not inheriting the promise? Because it's a process. Because you've accepted the notion of it's a process. That you even accepted the world system of saying third time's a charm. You've bought into that lie. Well, why can't the first time be a charm? If the third time can be a charm, why we can't say the first time is a charm? All right. Okay. So let's get into it. All right. So I want to show you that here we are in Exodus 13 and they are free, right? Pharaoh has tried all of his tricks. Let's go to Exodus 14. Hey, Sterling. Yep, still waiting on some things, right? And some things are God's timing, and some things we're holding up. It doesn't take this long, but it's something. It's a test that we're not passing. It's something that, and we got to determine through this teaching which one is it. Do we have a purpose or are we a process? Oh, let's take a break. Y'all see my t-shirt? These will be coming soon. And on the back of this t-shirt, TEA stands for transcending every adversity. We got to see ourselves as conquerors. I mean, I think I'm going to get ahead of myself and I really don't want to, but I still want to address the issue with all of these layoffs in the government. It's like, do you guys know who you are, who God created us to be? There is no situation, circumstances, trial, tribulation that we weren't designed to overcome. Come on, we are a people, us, the children of Israel are a people that have been enslaved and the things that we were able to overcome. Come on, there are people today that is just jumping into the fields of entrepreneurship. When we were being told that you need a degree, that you need college, that you need experience, that you need all of these things in order to make a living. And now you have this new generation of people that's not even buying into this job thing. I have 3 sons, and my sons have witnessed my husband work in the telecommunication field for 30 plus years. And there has been multiple opportunities for them to come into the organization and get a job, and they don't want it. Like what we consider to be a stable career path job, they turn it down. So when I had this individual say to me, you don't feel any type of empathy or compassion for the people losing their jobs. And my response is not the predicted response or what he was expecting me to say. It's because I know what's on the inside of us. I know that we are more than conquerors. I know that a job isn't the end of us. I know that all things are new. I know that what we are used to seeing, come on, that we're going to see through this story. The children of Israel, even though they were complaining, you think about people, they've been complaining about them good government jobs. They've been complaining about their bosses. They've been complaining about not having enough leave or not being able to take leave or whatever the situation or the politics of the day, right? That you're complaining. The children of Israel was complaining. And then when God takes them into a place of the unknown and to unfamiliar territories and to a place where they have to depend on God for everything. And then they start murmuring and complaining. Come on. So I'm telling you, we are no different than the children of Israel. But we can read this story and look at it from an outside perspective and think, how dare them? How ungrateful they are. How soon they forgot. You remember some of the prayers that you've prayed, and then when God answered them, and it requires for you to step outside of your comfort zone, then you start to say, well, well, why I got to do all of this? Because that's what you prayed. Remember I introduced that in the beginning. He said, I heard their prayers, and he remembered the promise that he made to their forefathers. Okay, so Exodus 13, we read that. Let's look at Exodus 14. So they finally escape, right? This is after they have God hit them with so many different plagues, and then they finally was able to part through the Red Sea, right? And then the Egyptians that were coming after them, Moses closed the Red Sea and they all drowned, right? Then the Lord gave these instructions to Moses: order the Israelites to turn back and camp by Pi between Migdol and the sea. Camp there along the shore across from Baal Zephon. Then Pharaoh will think the Israelites are confused. They are trapped in the wilderness. And once again, I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and he will chase after you. I have planned this in order to display my glory through Pharaoh and his whole army. After this, the Egyptians will know that I am the Lord. So the Israelites camped there as they were told. The Egyptians pursued Israel. When word reached the king of Egypt that Israelites had fled, Pharaoh and his officials changed their minds. What have we done letting all those Israelite slaves get away? They asked. So Pharaoh harnessed his chariot and called up his troops. He took with him 600 of Egypt's best chariots along with the rest of the chariots of Egypt, each with its commander. The Lord hardened the heart of Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, so he chased after the people of Israel, who had left with fists raised in defiance. The Egyptians chased after them with all the forces in Pharaoh's army, all his horses and chariots, his charioteers, and his troops. The Egyptians caught up with the people of Israel as they were camped beside the shore near Pi Hahiroth, across from Baal Zephon. Okay, so I'm trying to skip through it. Oh, I wanted to get to this part. Verse 11. No, go to 10. As Pharaoh approached, the people of Israel looked up and panicked when they saw the Egyptians overtaking them. They cried out to the Lord and they said to Moses, "Why did you bring us out here to die in the wilderness? Weren't there enough graves for us in Egypt? What have you done to us? Why did you make us leave Egypt?" They said, why did Moses make them leave Egypt? Moses was minding his business. How is it that Moses, companies are getting away from degree requirements? I know they are. It's life as we knew it. So that's what I'm saying. We got to go with God. Whatever God tell us to do, we got to believe it and receive it. And know that we don't have to go through 40 years. Come on. That 11 days, because what seems to be impossible for us, come on. The Bible says nothing is impossible for God. Nothing is too hard for God. Okay. So they said, look, the Israelites says, why did you make us leave Egypt? He made them leave Egypt as if they didn't cry to God. Didn't we tell you this will happen while we were still in Egypt? We said, leave us alone. Let us be slaves to the Egyptians. Come on, that's what the people saying. These people have probably been asking for better jobs, wanting more money. We don't know what some people's prayers have been. And because your prayers haven't been answered in the manner in which you think they should be answered, then you like, we're losing our good government jobs. We didn't ask for this. How dare Trump take these jobs for us? Leave us alone. We want to be slaves. It's better to be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness. Come on. They said it's better to be a slave than a corpse in the wilderness. Okay, so they finally get out, escape through the Red Sea. So in verse 15, Exodus 14 and 15, this is when, Moses raises up the staff and it parts the sea, and then all of that. Then the angel of God who had been leading the people of Israel moved to the rear of the camp. Then Moses raised his hand and all of that good stuff. So now we go to Exodus chapter 15, right? Here in Exodus 15, here they go complaining again. There's no water. So here in 15, they've been traveling for 3 days with no water. So okay. So verse chapter 15 starts out with them singing a song of deliverance. They so happy that they were able to get away, get out of Egypt. Now remind you, I just read in 14 that they were saying, didn't we tell you to leave us alone? We want to be a slave. We'd rather be a slave in Egypt than a corpse in the wilderness. Okay. So then I'm scrolling down. They still praising God. So here we come in verse 22. Then Moses led the people of Israel away from the Red Sea, and they moved out into the desert of Shur. They traveled in this desert for 3 days without finding any water. When they came to the oasis of Marah, the water was too bitter to drink. So they called the place Marah, which means bitter. Then the people complained. Come on, now we're starting to see a pattern. Come on, now we're starting to see maybe this is why, this is a clue context of why it took them 40 years as opposed to 11. Like maybe if you can see yourself as the children of Israel, then maybe you can pinpoint some moments in your process that is prolonging your process. Then the people complained and turned against Moses. What are we going to drink? They demanded. So Moses cried out to the Lord for help, and the Lord showed him a piece of wood. Moses threw it into the water, and this made the water good to drink. So God comes through once again for the children of Israelites. Poor Moses. Moses got to deal with all of this stuff. Okay, then if I go down to verse 24, I just need to show. Oh, I already read that part. Let's go to Exodus 16. I just have to show you some patterns. Then the whole community of Israel set out from Elim and journeyed into the wilderness of Sin between Elim and Mount Sinai. They arrived there on the 15th day of the 2nd month. This is 1 month after leaving the land of Egypt. Verse 2, there too, the whole community of Israel complained about Moses and Aaron. And this part is so funny to me. Because in verse 3 they said, if only the Lord had killed us back in Egypt. Come on, y'all. They moaned. There were sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. Come on. They said, there we sat around pots filled with meat and ate all the bread we wanted. But now you have brought us into this wilderness to starve us all to death. The same people, say the same people. These are the same people that were praying to God and talking about the harsh treatment. Come on, how many of us can see ourselves in these people? Come on, we're complaining. You had me sell my house, which I was house poor in. I had too many, the bills were extreme. I needed a new, like say a water pump. You know, in them houses, you got to replace that stuff yourself. So you asking God, please deliver me from this. And then he tell you to sell your house and then you move into a apartment. And now you get an apartment and you rejoicing because you don't have all of them bills to pay, which I don't even know how people are rejoicing because apartments is just as much. The rent in an apartment is just as much as a mortgage. But then you start complaining about other things. Well, this ain't right and that ain't right and these people is this and that. Come on, that you're prolonging your process. I'm trying to give you some clues as to why things are taking longer than may be necessary. Now, not all. Some things are in God's timing. Some things is to the right. Remember in Esther, for you were born for such a time as this. Like some things take time. But let's just look at what God wants us to see in this moment. Do you have a purpose or are you a process? Come on, are you a process? Come on, are you complaining? You keep murmuring. You keep forgetting. You keep starting over. You're not completing. You're not finishing. You're not getting the job done. And they say, but you brought us to starve to death. Then the Lord said to Moses, look, I'm going to rain down food from heaven for you. Each day the people can go out and pick up as much food as they need for that day. I will test them in this to see whether or not they will follow my instructions. Come on, are you being tested? Is God testing you to see, are you going to obey his commandments? Come on. I thought I wrote something else down. On the sixth day, they will gather food, and when they prepare it, there will be twice as much as usual. So Moses and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, by evening you will realize it was the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt. In the morning you will see the glory of the Lord, because he has heard your complaints, which are against him, not against us. See, when you complaining about, the Bible tells us that God places those in authority and leaderships according to what he chooses to do, right? And so when you think that you're complaining about your boss, when you think that you're complaining about the president, when you think that you're complaining about your pastors or your leaders or people that you are under authority of, come on, Moses knew. He said, because he has heard your complaints, which are against him, not against us. What have we done that you should complain about us? Moses was clear on this. Look, I'm just a vessel. I'm just on assignment. I have a purpose. I am who God is using to lead you guys out of Egypt. But don't get it twisted. It's God. They keep coming to me complaining, saying, why did you make us go? I didn't make y'all go. It's like, this is why I love the kingdom system. Because when you do it God's way, you have no accountability. You don't have to worry about people talking about you because they talking about God. You just the figurehead. You're just the ambassador. You're just the person on the face. You're just the face of the campaign. But Moses, they say, look, what have we done that you should complain about us? Then Moses added, the Lord will give you meat to eat in the evening and bread to satisfy you in the morning, for he has heard all your complaints against him. What have we done? Yes, your complaints are against the Lord, not against us. And then I think I want to go down, because then they got quail. And then there was a time when they wasn't supposed to do anything on the Sabbath, right? Them people was defying God on the Sabbath. Hold on, let's see. I think I might have wrote it down. Verse 27. Let's go down to, I think it's Exodus 16, verse 27. Okay, let's go to 23. He told them, this is what the Lord commanded. Tomorrow will be a day of complete rest, a holy Sabbath day set apart for the Lord. So bake or boil as much as you want today and set aside what is left for tomorrow. Verse 24, so they put some aside until morning, just as Moses had commanded. And in the morning, the leftover food was wholesome and good without maggots or odor. Moses said, eat this food today, for today is a Sabbath day dedicated to the Lord. There will be no food on the ground today. You may gather the food for 6 days, but the seventh day is the Sabbath. There will be no food on the ground that day. Verse 27, some of the people went out anyway on the seventh day, but they found no food. The Lord asked Moses, how long will these people refuse to obey my commands and instructions? They must realize that the Sabbath is the Lord's gift to you. That is why he gives you a 2-day supply on the 6th day, so there will be enough for 2 days. On the Sabbath day, you must each stay in your place. Do not go out to pick up food on the seventh day. So the people did not gather any food on the seventh day. See, the people was murmuring, they were complaining, and they were disobedient. And this is why it can take you 40 years to go on an 11-day journey. Come on, I got 9 more minutes, but I got next week to wrap this thing up in a bow. I just want to set the foundation for you. I want us to see where God is going with this. I want us to get every promise that God has for us. I want us to move with a purpose and forget about the process. We can't focus on the process because we're going to get stuck in the process. The process is not going to look like what we want it to look like. Joseph never thought that his brothers would sell him into slavery. Joseph never thought that the king would take his word, his wife's word over his when she accused him of trying to sleep with her and he got sent to prison. Joseph never thought that this is the road map that he had to take. I want to show you guys something, and I'm going to put a pin in this teaching until next week. But I want you guys to see something. It was about the road to which God chose to take them. I don't know if I wrote it. Okay, let's talk about the fear of the unknown. God was worried that once the Israelites saw, yeah, this is part of what I want to share with you guys. Let's see if I can find it. Oh, I can't find it. But they were talking about the two different roads and why God chose to take them through a road that wasn't a straight path. Oh, I can't find it. I can't find it. Hold on, let's see. It cut off. Oh, hold on, Sterling. Your Facebook just cut off. Oh, man. Let's see. I don't know why I'm having chat. No, I'm still on, Sterling. I got to let him know. Oh, maybe he sent that to me earlier. No, this is 12:47. Thank you, Sterling. Okay, so maybe I'll start that off next week. But I want you to know that is your response if your response to everything is a process. Is it a process because you keep quitting? Is it a process because you keep starting over? Is it a process because you keep failing the test? Is it a process because you're inconsistent? Maybe you saying that it's a process because you're entering into unfamiliar territory. I was just telling my husband yesterday. I asked him, I said, why do you think that I am somebody who doesn't like to do things over and over again? It was like this week, I was just like, I'm sick of the routine. Like my life has been like a routine. I get up, I drop one of my neighbors off at the bus. I drive, I go to the gym, You know, I run some errands. I do little things for the shop. I'm working on, you know, my tea time apparel. But I'm just noticing that I'm doing this routine and it's just going in a circle and I don't like it. It's like I wasn't built for that. I love the unknown. I like doing things that are different. I like for my world to change, you know, but my husband is somebody that is a creature of habit. He is somebody that can go to a job for 30 something years and like enjoy it every moment. And I'm like, why am I not that way? Like even before, you know, I met my husband and I worked, I never stayed at a job longer than 3 years. You know, even I was like one of the leaders in the area of ministry. And I'm like, I'm only going to do this for like 3 years. I think I was there longer than 3 years. But after my 3 year mark, every year I would ask God, okay, am I done? Am I finished? Can I move on? But I thank God for that because most people and the children of Israel specifically, they're getting stuck in the wilderness. They're getting stuck in the process because they're being led into uncharted territory. They're being led into unfamiliar territory. You think about Abraham. Abraham had to get away from his family. He had to get away from the people that he was most familiar with, the people he was most comfortable with, so that God can take him to what? The land of Canaan. So he had to get him out of his box. He had to take him out of what he's comfortable in. Come on, whatever is comfortable, you can't grow. So I'm just telling you, man, you got to stay tuned. Stick with me during this lesson. I will have my notes in more order than what they are today. But I really just want to introduce this lesson to you because next week I'm going to tie this thing up in a cute, pretty bow. And I pray that you guys receive the word of the Lord. Come on, do you have a purpose or are you a process? Come on, we don't want to be like the children of Israel, wandering around in the desert, complaining. Shut up. You know, I shared with you guys my testimony on when my husband and I, we purchased our first home, our first house in Waldorf. And when God told me to sell that house, I wasn't sure where we were going. I was like, okay, now I know I ain't just sell my house to go to no apartment. I know I ain't sell my house to not know where I'm going. And so God had my mother, you know, to offer for my husband and I and our three sons to come and stay with my mom. And so we knew that the living conditions were going to be much more smaller than what we were used to. All of our children had their own bedroom. We had our own living space, you know, a whole level of living space. We had a big old backyard where we had an in-ground swimming pool and a basketball court in our backyard. So we knew that what we were used to, what we were comfortable with, we were leaving all of that behind. We were going to a place that we didn't really know how long we were going to be there. If you will, the wilderness experience. But I knew that there was a promise on the other side that God was surely going to give me something that was bigger than what I just left. And that was my 5 bedroom, 5.5 bath house with a loft, you know. So, but Q and I had a plan when we entered into that, if you will, wilderness time. You know, we knew that we wasn't going to complain. So I'm telling you, if today, because I'm not finished teaching my lesson, but you got a lesson in today's lesson, stop complaining. Come on, Q and I purposely, we replaced our complaints with praise. We said, my mother loved for it to be hot. Well, Q and I like air condition. We already knew that when we went over there, we wasn't getting any air condition. So we knew that things were not going to be the same. So I'm just saying, if you're in a season in your life, if you're in a moment of time where you are entering an unknown, where things are not the same as they used to be, I'm telling you that God is not caught off guard, that He heard your prayers the first time you prayed them. And all you got to do is operate in thanksgiving and start expecting God to show up like only He can show up. He's the only one that can provide water in a desert. Come on, that can make food come out of the sky called manna. Come on, you got to get into your word and find some type of hope and joy and know that God is a God that cannot fail. He is not a man that he should lie. He is not like the government that is one day this way and the next day another way. No, he is a never changing, everlasting Father. And so I'm telling you, I have applied these principles to my life and I have victory and testimonies. And I want you guys to be able to have these same testimonies, right? Because there's a purpose on your life. Do you have a purpose? Your purpose is to share the good news of Jesus Christ because we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the words of our testimony. And somebody is dependent on your testimony. And your testimony cannot be that you're still wandering around in the wilderness. No, we are more than conquerors. Come on. So we had to replace our complaints with praise. So whenever we felt like we were going to complain because it started to get hot in there, we would get in the shower and Q and I would be speaking in tongues and we would start praising God. Hallelujah, hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. And I'm telling you, I found my house, the next house, in 2 months. See, it did not take us 40 years to find our house. It took 2 months because we had a purpose and we had a promise. And I'm telling you, get away from that mindset. It's a process. Or I'm working on me. Or I ain't there yet. Okay, why? Is it because of your attitude? Is it because of your temper? Is it because you're not passing tests? Is it because you're doing things your way and not God's way? Come on. You got to get rid of that. Forfeit doing things your way. You already know what you can do in your own strength, but you don't know what it is that God can do. And I'm telling you, I'll pick, the children of Israel said we would have chose to be slaves than carcasses in the wilderness. No, I'm going to go with God every time. I may not know, I may not see, I may not understand, but I'm going to trust God because He hasn't failed me yet. Come on, I'm Tia Williams. I want you guys to come back next week so we can continue the teaching of, do you have a purpose or are you a process? All right, you guys, be blessed. Make sure you hit the share button. Come on and watch the replay. I'm going to repost it at 7 p.m. tonight. All right, you guys, be blessed. Have a good day. Hit the share button.